Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're unpacking something that really touches all our lives, social skills.
Yeah.
Whether you're looking to navigate, an awkward gathering, feel more confident, or just build deeper connections, we've got a great source that really cuts to the heart of it.
Our goal here is really to pull out the most impactful insights from this guide. We're talking about a clear, actionable roadmap,
Right.
something that moves beyond just vague advice, giving you practical strategies to, well, transform your social comfort and confidence without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Think of it as really getting the mechanics of human connection. We're going to get into how to quiet that inner critic, master conversation, and really cultivate those fulfilling friendships.
Yeah,
So, okay, let's get started.
sounds good.
The guide really kicks off by digging into the core barriers people face, right? Shyness, social anxiety, insecurity.
And just plain discouragement, yeah.
Yeah, and what I found fascinating is how these aren't just like surface level things, they're deeply rooted challenges.
Exactly. And the source really emphasizes that these often need to be addressed, like head on, before other social skills can genuinely take root.
Mm,
Take shyness, for example. It's not just about being quiet, right? Even mildly shy people can feel constantly drained by all these inner worries and self-doubt.
right.
The guide points out how our thinking patterns actually fuel this. We start seeing others as judgmental, ourselves as, unappealing.
And interactions become these huge tests.
These high-stakes life or death tests, exactly, which they're usually not.
And it's not just before an interaction either, is it? That insecurity, it can creep in during a conversation too.
Oh, absolutely.
That little voice saying, I'm probably messing this up, or they must think I'm annoying.
Or even later when you're thinking about reaching out, like, oh, they probably don't want to hang out again.
Yeah.
That's a crucial point. And what's really insightful is recognizing these thoughts often come from what the source calls counterproductive thinking. These are basically mental habits that actively steer us away from good social outcomes. You might even recognize some of these.
Like what?
Well, there's overgeneralization. You take one small thing, like maybe a coworker didn't invite you out once,
Right.
and you immediately jump to, nobody at my job wants to be friends. It's this huge, sweeping, negative conclusion from one data point.
Okay, I see that.
Then there's filtering. That's where you dwell on the negatives and just kind of ignore the positives.
Mm-hmm.
You selectively remember only the times you felt awkward, but you conveniently forget all the times interactions went fine or even well.
You filter out the good stuff.
Exactly. And personalization.
Yeah.
Believing your friends left a party early because you were boring?
When maybe they were just tired.
Right. You make it all about you, even when it probably isn't. And finally, disqualifying the positive.
How does that work?
That's dismissing something good that happens. Like you have a nice chat with someone and you tell yourself, oh, it doesn't count. She's just friendly to everyone.
So you invalidate the positive experience.
You do. It's almost like you're trying to protect yourself from feeling good or from getting your hopes up.
Wow, okay. I can see how those patterns could be incredibly self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
But realistically, how tough is it to actually unlearn years of this kind of thinking? What's the biggest hurdle?
That really is the core challenge.
Yeah.
And the guide offers this powerful but simple strategy. Identify, question, and replace those counterproductive thoughts.
Identify, question, replace. Okay.
The insight here is that your anxious thoughts, they aren't just random noise. They're often patterns your brain defaults to, maybe for a misguided sense of safety.
Right.
So it's about being a bit of a detective for your own mind, seeing how these thoughts might be holding you back. It's not about forcing some kind of blind positivity.
Oh, fake positivity.
Exactly. It's about finding realistic and balanced alternatives. So instead of everyone at this party is going to hate me, maybe a more balanced thought is like, okay, some people probably like me. Others might not really click with me. The ones who aren't into me probably won't be mean, just, kind of indifferent. I can handle indifferent.
Okay, that feels much more manageable.
Right. And this isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process, like building a muscle. You're repatterning your brain.
That really covers the inner monologue. But what about when that anxiety still hits you physically? In the moment. How do you take the edge off then?
Yeah, good question. Beyond the general health stuff like exercise and sleep, which the source really stresses, are surprisingly effective, even if they sound obvious.
The basics matter.
They really do. But there are specific in-the-moment techniques, too. You can question the thoughts fueling the anxiety, like remind yourself that you're not actually going crazy just from nerves.
Mm-hmm.
Distraction can also be key. Focusing hard on music, a game, something mentally demanding can shift your brain's focus away from the anxiety loop. And the guide highlights specific calming techniques. There's 4-7-8 breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale slowly for 8, right from your abdomen.
Okay, 4-7-8.
And this isn't just about slowing down. It actually signals your nervous system to switch out of fight or flight. It physiologically calms you down.
Interesting.
And then there's progressive muscle relaxation. You basically tense up different muscle groups like your fists, then your arms, and then release them, focusing on the feeling of relaxation spreading.
Okay, I've heard of that.
And importantly, sometimes you can just ride out the symptoms. Know that those really intense nerves often peak for just a minute or two, and then they start to fade if you don't fight them too hard.
These sound like really helpful tools for managing the moment.
Uh-huh.
But to really tackle the fear itself long term, what does the source say is the more powerful way?
It's through what psychologists call exposure therapy, or what the source just calls real-world experiences.
Right, exposure.
The real aha moment here is understanding that your brain's fear response isn't always logical. It's often a learned association, like situation X equals feel scared. Exposure therapy doesn't argue with the fear. It retrains your brain through direct experience. You basically show your amygdala, see, we did the scary thing and nothing terrible happened. It's not just coping, it's actually rewiring.
So you face the fear.
You do. If a social situation genuinely makes you nervous, the idea is you need to put yourself in it repeatedly until you become comfortable. This overwrites that old association.
Okay, I get the power in that. But for someone who feels just completely overwhelmed by social situations, how do you even start? It sounds a bit like being thrown in the deep end.
That's a totally fair concern. And the source suggests a very strategic approach. It talks about creating a hierarchy of fears.
A hierarchy, like levels.
Exactly. Think of it like learning to swim. You don't just jump into the deep end day one, right? You start in the shallow end.
Makes sense.
So you start with a milder version of the scary situation. Maybe talking to someone you find approachable before tackling someone more intimidating. Or just asking a quick question and leaving instead of aiming for a full conversation right away.
Okay, baby steps.
Totally. And the crucial point is you only move up the ladder, up the hierarchy, when the previous step feels, well, mundane and boring.
Not just slightly less scary.
Right. Not just less scary, but actually boring. That's the sign you've really adjusted. The goal isn't speed. It's solidifying the improvement, building that new, calmer memory step by step.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So once you've started to quiet that inner critic, manage the nerves, what's next? The source says it's time to focus on conversation itself. And it's clear, these are skills, right? Things you can practice.
Precisely, not some magic psychology hack. And the source offers some really practical, down-earth advice here. Like, don't stress too much about changing topics in a conversation. Friends do it all the time, jumping from one thing to another. As long as it's not, jarring or cutting someone off mid-sentence, it's usually fine.
Okay, good to know.
And in group conversations, really actively listening helps you find natural ways to jump in, even when it feels a bit chaotic.
Right, finding your opening.
Yeah. And for getting through those sometimes awkward first few minutes, don't get hung up on finding the absolute perfect opener. Simple, general questions or broad statements are often totally fine to get things rolling.
Just start somewhere.
Exactly. The source even suggests being willing to maybe do most of the talking right at the beginning sometimes, just to give the other person a chance to warm up.
And it really reframes small talk, doesn't it? Instead of seeing it as this, annoying hurdle.
It suggests viewing it as the opening round.
Right, the opening round to maybe a really good conversation. Treat those mundane topics, the weather, how work's going, as legitimate starting points that you can pivot from.
Exactly, they're stepping stones. But how does empathy fit into all this? That seems key.
It is. Empathy is this critical, often unseen force in building connection. It's what makes interactions feel, well, real. The source defines 2 types, which I found helpful.
Okay.
There's emotional empathy. That's about feeling what others feel. You pick up on their sadness or joy, and you kind of feel a version of it yourself.
Right, like feeling sympathy for a sad friend.
Exactly. And then there's cognitive empathy. This is more about logically understanding why someone feels a certain way, even if you don't share the feeling yourself.
So feeling with versus understanding about.
Perfect way to put it. Like, you can understand why a particular book might offend someone, even if it doesn't bother you personally.
That distinction is really useful, and the source talks about actually developing empathy, even if it doesn't feel natural at first. How does it suggest doing that?
Yeah, it frames it as a skill you can build. It recommends first learning to just respect the role emotions play, then getting more in touch with your own feelings.
Okay, starting with yourself.
Right. And then deliberately practicing feeling what other people might be feeling. One simple but effective method it suggests is watching a drama, a TV show or movie, pause during an emotional scene, and actively trying to imagine yourself as that character. Really try to feel what they're feeling in that moment.
Like a mental workout for your empathy muscle.
Exactly. Which leads right into listening, doesn't it? The source goes into a lot of detail about listening as just a foundational skill.
It's so crucial. Listening well makes people feel respected, understood, and if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's what opens the door to more serious, substantial conversations beyond just casual chat. It's more than just, hearing the words. It's active listening, being purposeful, focused, empathetic, trying to read between the lines.
Or we've all met people who aren't great listeners. What are some of those common bad habits the source says we should try to avoid?
Oh yeah, the list is familiar. Things like talking way too much yourself, seeming disengaged, checking your phone constantly.
The phone checking.
Interrupting all the time or finishing other people's sentences for them, abruptly changing the subject without even acknowledging what the other person just said.
Right, just bulldozing the conversation.
Exactly. Or giving those really short, unsatisfying, token responses, okay, that just show you're not really tuned in.
And beyond what we actually say, there's that whole silent language going on too, right? Nonverbal communication. What are the key takeaways there?
Nonverbal cues, yeah, they're like a silent conversation happening alongside the spoken one. You're not suddenly a mind reader, but the source explains that paying attention can reveal a lot about someone's real feelings or thoughts.
What kind of signals?
Key things include eye contact, making it, avoiding it, facial expressions, obviously.
Yeah.
Posture, are they open or closed off? Gestures they use, how close they stand, personal space. Even the direction their body and feet are pointing can signal interest or a desire to leave, and how they position themselves relative to others in a group setting.
So facing someone directly usually means interest.
Generally, yeah. Open body language, facing someone, those usually signal engagement.
And what about improving your own nonverbals? I guess some of that just happens naturally as you get more confident.
You're right. Some nonverbals definitely improve naturally as your confidence grows. Your posture might open up. You might make more eye contact without thinking about it.
Right.
However, some ingrained bad habits, like maybe consistently failing to make eye contact or always having really closed off posture, those might need more direct conscious effort to correct.
Okay.
The guide also suggests just thinking about your grooming, your personal style, your overall posture. These things contribute to the first impression you make, ensuring you're not unintentionally putting people off before you even start talking.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears slightly to actually making connections and building friendships. The source has this really important reminder right up front.
What's that?
That social skills are skills like any other. And to get better, you have to put in the time to catch up. It's not instant.
That is such a critical insight. The guide points out how people often expect some kind of trick or hack for social skills, maybe because they're not physical, they seem kind of mundane.
Yeah, like there should be a shortcut.
But it really takes consistent practice, just like learning a sport or an instrument. And the source outlines 3 main ways to get that practice in.
Okay.
1, just simply spend more time socializing unstructured. 2, maybe get a job or volunteer position that forces you to interact with lots of people.
Right, built-in practice.
Exactly. Or 3, join things, clubs, teams, classes, even online meetups based around your interests, places where interaction is the point.
And for a lot of people, there's this very real issue of social drainage, right? Feeling totally wiped out after just an hour or 2 of socializing. What can you actually do when that hits?
Oh yeah, that's incredibly common. And the source offers some practical short-term fixes. You could try a quick burst of caffeine, maybe grab a snap. Sometimes just waiting for a second wind to kick in works. Taking little mini breaks can help too, even if it's just stepping into the bathroom for a quiet minute. Or consciously trying to re-engage by finding an interaction that looks fun and joining in.
Okay.
And for planning ahead, Taking a strategic nap beforehand can actually make a big difference. The overall goal isn't to never feel tired, but to gradually increase your tolerance for having company.
That makes sense, building stamina.
Hmm.
But what if the issue isn't just energy, but motivation? Like you're just not motivated to start or you feel like you don't even enjoy socializing that much? The source tackles that directly.
It really does. It explores a few reasons why motivation might be low. Maybe anxiety is holding you back more than you realize. Maybe you just have a lower inherent need to socialize, which isn't bad, but it can lead to this kind of stagnant middle ground.
Okay.
Or maybe you're pursuing social goals that aren't actually yours, but things you feel pressured into by society.
Right. And for those who say, I just don't enjoy it.
The source suggests they often haven't actually experienced how genuinely rewarding socializing can be when it goes well. They might only associate it with past awkward or even negative interactions.
So their past experience shapes their current view.
Exactly. The advice is usually to address the anxiety first and then take some time to really figure out what you genuinely want in a social life. Maybe it's not being a party animal. Maybe it's just having a few close friends for low-key hangouts. And breaking those bigger goals down into really small, manageable chunks, focusing only on the very next step, can help overcome that feeling of being overwhelmed.
So practically speaking, what does this all mean for actually meeting people and starting friendships? Where do you begin?
Well, first, the source works to dispel some common anxieties around this, like the belief that being lonely means you're somehow deeply flawed, or that actively trying to make friends is lame or desperate.
Yeah, those are common fears.
It really emphasizes that both loneliness and wanting connection are totally normal human experiences, and they say nothing negative about your worth as a person.
Okay.
To actually meet new people, though, you'll probably have to consciously push yourself out of your regular routine and make it a priority. And the source offers a whole bunch of places.
Like,
Through your current friends, obviously, at work, at school if you're there, joining clubs or volunteering, online groups focused on hobbies, even taking solitary hobbies and making them social, like joining a hiking group or taking a pottery class.
okay, lots of options if you look.
Yeah.
So once you meet someone promising, how do you bridge that gap from just acquaintance to actual friend? That feels like a big step.
Making plans is the crucial next step, and the guide really hammers this point. Come to people with a solid plan.
Not just, we should hang out sometime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's too vague, puts the burden on them. Instead, try something concrete. Want to check out that new brewery next Thursday? Or there's a free concert in the park Saturday. Interested?
Gives them something specific to say yes or no to.
Precisely. And when choosing an activity, think about their interests, obviously, but also your own comfort level. Maybe an activity-focused outing is better at first if you worry conversation might be slow.
Good point.
Group outings, the source notes, are also often lower stakes than one-on-one initially. And if someone turns you down, don't immediately jump to rejection. People often give polite excuses for genuine reasons.
Right.
The source suggests it's generally fine to keep inviting them occasionally, unless they're just consistently flaky specifically for one-on-one plans. And what I found really insightful was the idea of setting up recurring plans.
Like a regular thing.
Yeah, like a monthly board game night or a weekly coffee chat. These can provide a really stable social anchor, though they do take ongoing effort to keep going.
Okay, that's really practical. Let's shift now to some of the maybe deeper aspects of social dynamics. What actually makes someone likable? Is there a secret?
The source says likable people generally aren't using secret techniques. They're just consistently doing more of the fundamental things well.
Like what fundamentals?
Well, the core idea is you need to bring something to the table in your interactions. That could be humor, having interesting things to talk about, being a really good listener, being supportive. It's about identifying and developing your particular social strengths.
Okay, play to your strengths.
Right. It also touches on just generally having more positive personality traits than negative ones, and importantly, being aware of any off-putting or maybe annoying traits you might unintentionally have. Sometimes, the source suggests, with self-awareness, you can even learn to put a sort of charming spin on minor quirks.
That's interesting, being aware of those potentially off-putting traits. The source gets into a few specific ones, like being seen as too nice or too wholesome or maybe too uptight. Can you unpack those a bit?
Absolutely. The guide looks beyond the labels. Being too nice often isn't about genuine kindness, but more about being a people pleaser. Driven by a fear of being misliked, maybe lacking healthy boundaries, the antidote isn't being mean, it's developing assertiveness.
Okay, setting boundaries.
Exactly. Being too wholesome might mean you miss out on harmless activities others enjoy because you judge them too quickly, or having overly rigid views that limit who you connect with. The source might encourage gently trying something you've dismissed, like maybe a casual night out at a bar isn't automatically bad.
Right, challenging assumptions.
And being too uptight often comes from a need to control everything and having unrealistic expectations for social situations. The advice there is often to just accept that things like minor flakiness, a bit of noise, or people bending small rules are just part of the social landscape. Try not to let them bother you so much. Ease up on the need for everything to be perfect.
So assertiveness seems really key, especially as a counter to being too nice. How does the source define that and suggest developing it?
Assertiveness is defined as clearly and confidently stating your needs, feelings, and opinions while still respecting yourself and others. The source really works to debunk common myths about it.
Like what?
Like that it's rude or bossy, it's not. Or that it means you'll always be getting into arguments you won't. Or that you have to be perfectly assertive all the time, you don't.
Okay.
The key technique is simply to plainly state what you want in a composed, self-possessed manner. No need to over-explain, over-justify, or get aggressive. Just direct, calm, and clear communication.
Plainly state what you want. Got it. Now, I found it interesting how the source also tackles some really common practical hangups people have. Things like living far from friends, not having a car, or having limited money. These aren't emotional barriers, they're logistics.
Yes, and it offers practical solutions that really shift the mindset from I can't because to how can I? So if you live far away, maybe you offer to host more often or suggest meeting at friends' places sometimes instead of always going out in no car. Lean into public transport, look into carpooling, or maybe focus on building connections closer to where you live. Limited money. Seek out free activities, parks, community events, potlucks, game nights at home. And crucially, it emphasizes making your social life a genuine priority, even when you're busy, which means being efficient and intentional with your time.
Okay, proactive solutions. Now, what about the person who says, look, I don't really have trouble meeting people, but I just don't like most of them? That feels like a different kind of challenge.
It is a significant point and a common one. The source suggests that sometimes this feeling of pickiness can actually be a side effect of prolonged loneliness, which can kind of sour your overall view of other people.
Ah, interesting. Loneliness making you more critical.
Potentially, yeah. So it encourages seeking people who genuinely align with your values, of course, but also maybe consciously trying to give others more of a chance, softening some of those rigid aversions to certain activities or what you might perceive as shallow interests. The guide gently reminds us that not everyone needs to be deep in exactly the same way you are, and that a lot of perceived shallowness is just part of the fun, lighter side of socializing. Sometimes we look too hard for a mirror when maybe a compliment would be more enriching.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of social settings, drinking often comes up. It's intertwined for many, but not everyone is comfortable with it or wants it to be central.
That's an important clarification the source makes. It states very clearly that drinking is not required for social success. Absolutely not.
Okay.
It offers practical advice. Seek out friends who maybe aren't big drinkers themselves. Use that assertiveness we talked about if you feel pressured. And importantly, understand that there are different levels and contexts for alcohol consumption. Not all drinking is automatically lowbrow or problematic. It really depends on how it's approached.
Right. Context matters. Finally, as someone starts on this journey working on their social skills, what's a realistic expectation for how other people will react, especially old acquaintances? Will they suddenly notice the new you?
This is where the source offers a bit of a sobering, but I think really important truth. Don't necessarily expect people you've known for a long time to notice or validate your changes right away.
Why not?
They might be kind of stuck on their old idea of you. People form impressions and they don't always update them easily. And that's okay.
So don't look for validation there.
Not primarily. The source points out that new people you meet, they will respond to the different you, the person you are now, the one who's put in the work. But the real validation, the most important kind, comes from within. From recognizing your own progress, feeling more comfortable, and accepting yourself. That's the lasting payoff.
That makes a lot of sense. The internal validation is key.
Absolutely. And if we sort of connect all these dots, a really core takeaway emerges. Social skills are truly learnable. It's really not about trying to transform into some completely different person you're not.
No.
It's more about understanding the mechanics, the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, and then applying consistent, and I'd say compassionate effort towards yourself.
What's genuinely powerful here, I think, is realizing that this journey to improve your social life, it's ultimately a journey of self-discovery and growth, too. You gain the practical tools, sure, but you also end up with a deeper understanding of yourself and of others.
Yeah.
It leads to more authentic connections.
Beautifully put. And this raises an important final question for you, the listener, to maybe ponder. It's a thought from the source that really resonated. Your social issues may seem like an overwhelming, all-encompassing storm that's ruining your life right now. If you work on fixing them, there will come a time where all they'll be is an offhanded single-sentence summary of something from your past.
Wow. How might embracing that long-term perspective, that idea that this overwhelming thing can become just a footnote,
Mm-hmm.
how might that change your approach to your social life starting today? Thank you for deep diving with us.